So protein's the big one. Everybody takes it. It seems to be very popular at the moment, although there's a lot of debate in terms of what type of protein should you take. Animal, what's the other one?
Vegan.
Vegan.
Yeah, just plant-based.
And I know you have soy in your protein, I believe.
No soy in any protein.
Oh, no soy in the protein.
Right.
Okay.
Soy lecithin. People always mix that up.
Okay.
It'll say it contains soy. That's soy lecithin. It's not a protein, and it's infinitesimal. There's no amounts in it. Everything you buy in the store has soy lecithin in it. Muffin mix, cake mix, anything that's a powder. Otherwise, it will not mix properly.
Right.
And it's from the fat, so there's no allergies or anything to worry about. And it's so small, there's no measurement. That's why there's no amount in there. So that's a mistake people get. It says contains soy. It's soy lecithin. It's from the fat.
So what? You've kind of mentioned it earlier, but I just want to clarify this. So what do you believe, and the research has said is requirements for protein through life at your different stages? So and I'll kind of break it up into sort of early, middle, and later, which is probably over 50. So what would you say are kind of good requirements for someone that's got a relatively active life? They might not necessarily be an athlete, but they have a pretty good and active life, and they want to stay active and fit.
Okay. This is a very simple one. I actually do a very big lecture on this. No matter what, from your womb to your tomb, 1 gram per pound of your lean body mass. Now, you're not going to know what it is in the womb, but you're going to get plenty there anyway from mom, calories going up and everything else. So I'm just giving you the two ends. And the reason 1 gram per pound of lean body mass works, it's about 2 or 3 times more than the RDA. The RDA is a joke. Everybody knows that. If you are an undersized young child before puberty, the RDA, and sedentary, the RDA works. Because the body uses protein. Don't forget, and a good example for all your listeners, the reason females mince at age 12, because you're going to be dead by 19. And every species has to reproduce. 4 million years of being the average life of 19, so that's why we haven't evolved out of that yet. So the body does things amazing when you're young. When you're young, it can make anything work. But as soon as you get past puberty, that's the other side now. Right? So now that protein doesn't work as well. But if you're at 1 gram per pound and you're an extremely active youngster, like yours and my kids growing up as athletes, that 1 gram per pound is well above the RDA, and you need it because you're active.
Really? So
now,
kids need.
They need the same thing, 1 gram per pound if they're active. If they're not active, they don't. Right. Okay, they don't. But if they're active and they're growing, you want to maximize growth, including vertical, then they need that 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. Once you get past that, your body doesn't do as well, but you're not growing. So you're not depositing it in lean tissues or going vertical that much. So but you're still active. So the protein stays the same and you're getting the same value. You're recovering just fine. Now, as you get into be older, you're not nearly as active as you was as an athlete when you were 20 or 30, but you still need more because your body's resistant to protein. So that 1 gram still works per pound of lean body mass for that person. Here's where it gets tricky when you're dieting. When you diet, you probably need more to protect the lean body mass when you lose weight. Because for every pound you lose, and your listeners should write this down, every pound of body fat, or every pound of weight that you lose through conventional dieting, that means you're not feeding your body nutrition with little to low calories, so that's supplementing, then you're going to lose a quarter of it. At least a quarter is going to be lean body mass. And lean body mass isn't just muscle. It's organ weight, bone size, brain size, everything. Your body has to get rid of what used those calories. It dumps it. It dumps fat too, but it has to dump some of the things that use calories to survive. So that's getting shrink, and that's why people gain the weight back. Now you're burning less calories, and you just smell food and get fat. You end up with a weaker structure. So by bumping up your protein during that time, you can protect those lean body mass losses because you're feeding it directly the amino acids it needs, the building blocks, without all the extra calories, so you can still lose weight. So you're feeding muscle, starving fat is what you're doing when you're supplementing like that, and protein helps you get that during weight loss. So that's when you get up a little higher. Right. Bodybuilders will actually have 2 grams almost up to 2 grams per pound at the very end, because your protein is being used for energy, everything at that particular point. Right. You have to cut out the other calories.
So when you're looking for a good protein, and obviously, yours is a great protein, but if we're sort of like sitting on the fence and saying, look, if you go out, you don't have to buy dotFIT necessarily, although
Right, of course
we
not,
recommend
yeah.
it. But what should people look for? And is there any preference over plant or animal protein or whey or soy or anything like that? Just so that people can kind of look at a label and say, okay, well, at least I know I'm sort of getting something that's decent.
If you're a vegan for whatever reason, religious reasons, environment reasons, political reasons, whatever your reasons for being a vegan, then you want a plant protein. And you can get a plant protein, but plant proteins are far inferior, obviously, to animal proteins. I mean, we're animals and our amino acid structure is similar to animals, so animal protein is always going to be superior to a plant protein. No one argues that. But you can make a plant protein as good as an animal protein by fortifying it with the amino acids that would normally be missing. So you throw in some extra branch chains. So we did that with our plant protein. Our plant protein, the superior protein in the world, and no scientist in the world argues that, so you don't let anybody ever tell you anything different, is whey. Whey has and the reason is it has the highest essential amino acid count per gram of protein of any protein on Earth. So it's superior, but that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that it's going to build more muscle for you as long as you're getting enough of those essential amino acids, okay? But it is cleaner. It also works better for satiety reasons. So whey has always been the superior. A lot of people can't have animal proteins because, one, they're vegan. And they don't want an animal protein, and there's obviously an environmental reason for that, and I applaud vegans for that. I could never be one, but I can definitely applaud them, because of the way they look after the environment. But there's other people that have allergies to certain animal proteins, whether it be a dairy, something inside the dairy. Now a good animal protein, a good whey protein will strip everything out of it. So whey isolate, there's no lactose. So like our proteins have no lactose or any of those things. So whey would always be your first choice if you're not a vegan. No scientist in the world would ever argue that. Simple. However, if you're vegan, then you would buy, like we have one for every lifestyle, so you would buy like a pea protein. Pea protein is probably the most popular today. Soy protein as well. Soy is the only probably complete vegetable protein, and it's the most common protein consumed in Asian countries, as you know. And there's nothing wrong with here people in the U.S. think, well, isn't there a problem with cancer or something? No, there's not. That is a Western sort of myth that's taken there. If you're going to only eat soy and you have predisposition to cancer or something like that, well, then you check with your doctor on that. But they don't even have those problems in Asia, and that's all they eat, right? And they live way longer than we do. So there's nothing wrong with the soy protein. We don't make any soy proteins, but I'm just telling you that we have some in our bars or stuff, because there's actually a health claim, because soy protein actually lowers cholesterol. It's actually very healthy in a lot of ways. So there's a lot of myths out there, that people to get you to buy whatever their protein they are. But we support protein soy. We don't have a market for it, so we don't make it, right? Our athletes all want whey. Right, and the plant protein, we have a lot of vegan athletes now, or just vegetarian athletes. My son, Zane, the fighter, of all people, he ended up with, just in the last couple of years, he ends up with a dairy allergy. He's been drinking his whole life, having a protein source his whole life, so he uses our plant protein, right? And he has to use that. I think it tastes like shit, but bottom line is vegans love it. So, and I'm not a vegan. But yeah, so that you just fortify it, and it can be as good. You'll build just as much muscle being a vegan as you would eating animals. But I will tell you this. There's nothing natural about veganism. That's why the thing that always cracks me up. People think, well, it's plants, it's like earth. It's not natural. Because humans are literally evolved to be omnivores. Eat whatever's available. In fact, for the first millions of years as hominids, we had intestines about like 100 feet long. Now we're only about 20 feet long, our intestines, but we had them that long because only available were like plants and roots and things like that. So it took forever to get the nutrients out of it. So we had developed these stomachs like horses, right, that would be able to get the nutrients out of it. Of course, we all died young because we couldn't get that. Once we discovered protein, which was fish originally, well before the last ice age, but somewhere, about 100,000 years ago, maybe a little bit before that, we got tools, we could fish, and then omega-3s and amino acids and we formed a brain. And the brain became now something that we could get smarter and smarter with, and all those things began to take place. The brain was there, it just never developed until we got protein. And once that's why omega-3s, which are essential fatty acids that come from proteins, that's how we ended up there. And then the rest of it's history. And that's how by the way, a little side note for all your people here on evolution, that's how we ended up beating the Neanderthals. The Homo sapien was weaker than Neanderthal, right? But our brains developed in the front, and we developed a reason to have community and society. So we became smarter. Theirs were the back because they were hunters. So they had to move fast bursts. So that was all about reaction time for them. So the brains kind of developed, and that was kind of the final branch, all the way around.
So omegas, those are one of the things that you mentioned are very important. I've just started to get into them. I kind of read things, I get into them, and then I come out. But tell us a bit about why it's really important that we should take one. And then again, similar thing. What do we look out? What should we look out for? I know I believe there's some sort of non-fish omega acids. Is that not omega acids? Omega
3s.
Omega 3s.
Yeah, right.
Is it like seeds?
Yeah, flax oil, flax seeds. Yeah.
So what are you, again? Why are they important?
Yeah.
What do we look out for? And is there a preference over like a fish-based one or a seed-based one?
Well, okay. For all the claims that are out there right now, omega-3 fatty acids from the marine sources, okay, those are the ones that you can use all the health claims that are out there. Reduction of triglycerides, brain health. You can use those because those are the ones that were studied, only the marine ones. Because the fish has already converted it into what the body wants. It's like getting iron from plants. If you ate spinach, there's a whole bunch of iron in it, but your body can't absorb it. All right, because it's non-heme iron. It can get a tiny bit, but hardly any. But the cow eats the spinach, or the cow eats the rice. It converts it to heme iron. We eat the cow. We get now pure iron. All right, so the same thing with fish. When the fish eats the algae, they convert it to the omega-3s that our body can use. The problem with the flaxseed oil and all these things, if you're a vegan, you have no choice because you can't eat fish. So you're going to have to buy those. And you want to buy ones that we actually have a link for all our vegan customers. They can go buy it. I don't have enough vegan customers to support a million of those on my shelf. So we send them to some place to get a vegan omega-3. But the problem is the conversion is very poor. You got to convert that to a DHA or an EPA. It starts out omega-3, but it's not the two parts you want. Converting it at least you get about 1/8 of it. So you got to take a whole bunch of it in order to get the omega-3s that you need. Marine goes straight to the source right off the bat, the marines, and that's the marine sources, and that's why the human body does that. So that's all you need. If you can take a fish source, you want a fish source, and you want about a 3-to-2 ratio. You don't need any more than a gram a day, 600 milligrams a day. About 360 grams of the EPA and then DHA, the rest 240, and you got your 600 milligrams, and that's all you need if you're not eating fish.
And what does it do? What is the kind of reason, though, that you would want to take it? Just general inflammation or what?
So omega-3s are involved in controlling inflammation. So when you get sick, your body overreacts. It's just like when you have an injury, the swelling, you put ice on it to bring it down. That's what omega-3 does. It actually goes in there and tries to manage the inflammation so it doesn't overrun your body. Right. All right, so omega-3s are big there. In your regular brain development, your cardiovascular system, every cell in your body has omega-3s on the outside where they communicate with each other. Communication goes wrong if you don't have enough omega-3s. So that's why we have to have that certain amount every day. It's a very small amount because your body can keep most of it, but your cells are constantly replacing themselves. So your eye health, your brain health, all of these things are tied to the cells because anywhere there's a high fat content, especially the brain, right? There's going to be a lot of action going on in there, a lot of oxidation damage, a lot of inflammation when anything goes wrong when you're sick, and omega-3s can help quell that. That's why it's so important for the immune system as well.
Now, there's a bunch of popular diets that people talk about. I'm actually on one of them at the moment, and so I'm going to group them all together. But keto, paleo, vegan, intermittent fasting. Yeah. And when it comes to these sort of shortfalls that you mentioned earlier, are there any common shortfalls with all of these diets that is important to make sure that you're replacing any sort of essentials that it's like, look, if you're going to be doing one of those, then you absolutely need to do this. Otherwise, you're probably going to create more problems than you tried to solve in the beginning.
Correct. And we have, by the way, all of our dietitians have charts in their office. If you're on this diet, because we're not going to try to talk people out of it. They get locked into their little world and they listen to their influencer and all that. So we just go, okay, I'm giving up. I'm not endorsing the diet, but here is what's missing. So a keto diet's missing all of these. It removes entire food groups. Well, if you're removing entire food groups, you're obviously losing the vitamin and minerals because that's where they are. All right, so we have a list of all the ones that you're going to have to use. So just take a complete multivitamin mineral. That pretty much solves everything, along with calcium, right? And then we have an amino acid formula that they can take to get the extra protein, like on a keto diet or intermittent fasting, because that won't break your fast by just taking the aminos. You can support muscle during that period, right? So you'll take that in your multi, and that's pretty much it. And you can pretty much fill the gaps on all those diets. Gluten-free diets, the same thing. There's a lot of really good stuff in wheat and, different, fibers that they eliminate. But there's some people that have to go gluten-free, obviously, which is about 1% of the population that has, celiac. But most people that go on the gluten-free diets don't need to. It's just became a very, kind of a fad thing. But you end up eliminating some important foods. So just make sure you're taking a vitamin mineral and taking some fiber on the side if you're not eating, gluten things. That's it. Fiber, multivitamin, and just make sure you're getting that protein. If you're fasting during that time, then use an amino formula, like we have for those, and you're good. You're good to go.
So as we
can plug the holes in any diet.